Is Mr. Winterkorn in trouble?
He is very much in trouble. Actually, he's just gotten through a fight with the former chairman, Ferdinand Piëch, for control of the company, and this is basically the worst timing for him. Volkswagen in the United States is in trouble. Actually, he was just about to argue for letting local branches of Volkswagen basically be more autonomous in their decision-making, which basically just shows that the decision-making at Volkswagen is very centralized. And now he's in a position where he's going to have to say, well, we didn't know this was happening, or at least hope that he can say that, because this is, as far as car scandals go, about as bad as it gets.
Well, yeah, put that into context for us, because you've covered the car industry for 8 years now. We've seen plenty of scandals just the last couple of years alone. Last year, Hyundai and Kia of South Korea were slapped with hundreds of millions in penalties for overstating the fuel economy of their cars. There was a GM ignition switch. There was the airbags from different cars made by Takata. What's different about this one?
So Hyundai and Kia is the most similar here, because we're talking about the EPA and we're talking about fines. The fines will mostly come from them. The EPA fined Hyundai, Kia basically for overestimating the mileage, but the overestimation for Kia was because they made a mistake in trying to basically follow through the EPA's procedures. They say, it's an honest mistake, we're sorry about it, here's our record $300 million fine. Volkswagen didn't make a mistake. They purposely went out of their way to cheat the systems, according to the EPA, and apparently according to their own admissions.
So no fall guys here, right?
I mean, they're going to have to find somebody, because it looks really bad. But no, with Takata, Honda was able to say, well, even though they own part of Takata, this isn't our company, this is a supplier. GM has been able to say, this is old GM. We used to make bad cars, we're a good car company now. Volkswagen is a very centralized, tightly controlled organization, and they also had a recall about this in December where they recalled 500,000 cars to fix something. What happened in that recall? Who approved that? There's just so many questions here, and I fear that it probably goes to the top.
And Winterkorn certainly at the root of everything. Leonid Bershitsky, who's a Bloomberg View columnist, wrote about Volkswagen's disastrous American strategy in his latest note. And what he said is VW should never have been as exposed to the U.S. Changes as it turned out to be. Its dominance in diesel cars, which is the result of a Winterkorn strategic decision, has turned into a problem that will set back the car maker's effort to remain competitive in North America. What does this do to European car makers' efforts to convert the U.S. market to clean diesel?
This is terrible timing. Actually, Jaguar Land Rover's just made a push in the last year to say we're going to offer basically diesels in everything except for our extreme sports cars. This is a bad look for them. BMW's pushed a lot of diesels. This is a bad look for them. There's a bigger problem for Volkswagen than Audi, but it's going to probably impact Audi as well, because they still sell one of these vehicles and their vehicles are included in the recall. This is awful. This really is as bad as it gets.
Why have diesel cars always been more popular in Europe and Asia than here in the United States? I mean, it's not as if the Europeans are less concerned about the environment.
So it's just a different concern over the environment. So what are you talking about? Do you mean greenhouse gases? Are you talking about CO2? In that case, the Europeans are actually far ahead of the United States in considering how they regulate emissions. In the United States, because of the CARB, and you think of California, you think of all the smog, we were more concerned with particulate matter. So the Europeans took advantage of this and sold a lot of diesels which have historically higher emissions that affect local, sort of local air quality, whereas the Europeans have focused, more on global air quality. The United States is completely the opposite. So this is actually the root of why Volkswagen probably cheated. They wanted to sell these cars in the United States. They made a huge investment. They didn't really have a good hybrid option. So they said, well, let's get this car in the market. And everyone was looking at them and going, how are you able to do this without the kind of expensive particulate filter that basically BMW, everyone else is using? And I think now we have the answer.
Okay, so now we know that Volkswagen's in trouble with U.S. regulators. Will this filter back to Germany? Because they've always prided themselves in Germany about being leaders when it comes to environmental protection.
Germany, China, anywhere that Volkswagen sells a diesel vehicle, regulators, if they don't have the sophistication, and apparently the EPA, because they didn't figure this out, don't have the sophistication to figure this out, will call the smartest people they know and say, hey, come look at the codes. Let's see if Volkswagen is also trying to cheat us.
But Volkswagen doesn't have any political clout here in the United States either, so.
Tennessee, that's it. I mean, basically all of their political eggs are in the Tennessee basket with Bob Corker and Chattanooga there. That's not enough. Tennessee's not an important state, unfortunately, politically right now.